to have everyone here, and thank you for coming. Well, please call the meeting to order of the State Board of Education on February 3rd, 2017. 1920, whatever works. Denise, please call the roll.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
John
Present.
Witzel.
Yes.
Lisa Fricky.
Yes.
Patsy Kojans.
Yes.
And Commissioner Bloomstead.
Present.
All present.
Thank you. Will you please join with me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks. Information regarding the Open Meetings Act is posted on the east wall of this room on the south side of the door. We have live web streaming throughout the state on the Board of Education website. It is www.education.ne.gov/state-board, and we welcome our viewers as well. I'm going to remind you, as I always do, to please engage your microphones before speaking and turn them off when you're done, and please turn off all personal cell phones. Thanks. So we'll go to item 2, to approve the minutes of the January 5th and 6th State Board of Education meeting as published.
Move for approval?
It's been moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Denise, please call the roll.
Patsy Kojans.
Here.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Sorry.
Lisa Fricky.
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
8 yes.
We'll move on to, we had a legislative retreat on the 23rd of January, and I asked for a motion to approve the minutes of that retreat.
Move to approve the minutes of the January 23rd retreat.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Thank you. Denise?
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Lisa Fricky.
Yes.
Patsy Kojans.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
8 yes.
Okay, we'll need approval of the agenda. Commissioner, are there any recommended changes on the agenda?
No, I don't believe we have any recommended changes. I do have one addition that got added late that we'll have in information items that we have a video that we'd like to share with you from VR. That would be a nice thing at the end of the meeting, so.
Okay, we will do that. Is there a motion to approve today's agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve today's agenda. Denise?
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
Patsy Kojans.
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Lisa Fricky.
Yes.
8 yes.
Okay. We will move into our public comment period, and we thank people who have taken the time out of their busy day to come and visit with us. We have one request for appearance, and that is Mr. John Thompson with the Nebraska Association for Gifted. Oh, and Mr. Thompson, you will have 10 minutes. I hadn't turned the page.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you to the board, Dr. Bloomstead as well, for giving me this opportunity to speak with you this morning. It's always a pleasure to talk to educators that are working in the benefit of all students of Nebraska. I want to appear to you this morning as a smiling face, a supportive face, somebody that appreciates your work on behalf of all students in Nebraska. So thank you very much for your work on behalf of all students in Nebraska. So I'm here today just to make some comments really about the work of the Nebraska Association for the Gifted and the impact that it has in the state and kind of the interaction that that organization has with other agencies within the state, just to give you a little bit of perhaps the background of some of that work. But I am the current executive director of that organization. It is a 501(c) nonprofit in the state. It has 317 members across the state. There are 15 volunteer members that all have full-time jobs that work on that board and donate their time towards that board, working towards the mission of that board. And the mission of that group is to promote quality education and opportunities for individuals with high abilities through proactive leadership and advocacy. So it's a very wide, broad brush that they propose to work with a variety of different entities across the state. Just as a little bit of a background, it was formed as an association in 1957. The group has continually strived to increase awareness of parents, teachers, teacher trainers, and the general public to provide appropriate developmental experiences for students of high ability. It started as a result, actually in 1956, as a group of concerned parents, teachers, and administrators known as the Governor's Committee for the Academically Talented. So that was called in 56, 57, it's formed, and we've been up and running since 1957. My work has been involved with it since probably the mid-1980s as a classroom teacher, and then as a coordinator of high ability programs for a metro school in Nebraska, and now as the executive director. Some of the work that we do as a organization, we sponsor conferences throughout the year. For example, there is a conference February 23, 24 in Omaha. Some of you are going to attend. I've seen your registration come through. Excellent, thank you very much. We hope to take care of you very well. I invite all of you to consider attending. Many of you have attended in the past, so we'll see you shortly in the 23rd and 24th. There'll be over 300 folks from across the state in attendance. It's up, approximately 50 registrations from years past, so that's all good news. Some of the things that we have also done recently, in October of 2016, the Nebraska Association for Gifted and 3 ESUs across the state partnered and provided teacher training in Kearney on October 13th and October 12th and October 13th in Omaha, and we were able to serve 90 teachers across the state in best practices in differentiating curriculum for high ability learners and their work within the school district. So our work continues on a variety of fronts, and one of those fronts, as shown in our mission, is to provide help to provide training with teachers across the state, and we think that's a very key mission. We provide scholarships to high ability kids. We provide scholarships to teachers that apply for those dollars. We have given over $10,000 away in the last 5 years to different groups and different teachers and students. We give a $1,000 scholarship away to a graduating high school senior called the Lita Hollingworth Scholarship for an exemplary student across Nebraska. A young man from North Platte received it last year. Students from Gretna, Millard, and Metro, and a variety of different places have received those dollars. So it's an organization that tries to have a positive impact on young people's lives, teachers that teach them, ESUs across the state, administrators, decision makers, school board members, Nebraska Department of Education, the state school board folks as well. So we are an advocacy group for that organization. We have a budget that pushes our organization. That budget is entirely controlled by the attendance that we can garner at different events during the school year, whether it's a conference in February or an October event that we are in collaboration with other groups as well. There is a membership to join our organization. It's $25 for those folks that join. We have 317 paid members. We have a contact list of over 3,200 people across the state and the region. Our membership has grown in the last 5 years, actually the last 8 years, and we're very pleased for that trend that it is in fact growing internally. Some of the areas that we wish to work within is really to work with the Nebraska Department of Education as closely as possible. We have worked in the past with NDE, the Commissioner's Office, in working to ensure that the conditions that are outlined in Rule 3 are met by school districts. We have worked in the past with the revision of Rule 3 In fact, as early as, or as recently as 2014 and 15, we've worked with the High Ability Learner Coordinator to revise that rule, Donald Rice and others, Corey Epler in the department, to rework that rule to make it understandable by school districts as well as by the practitioners in the field that are trying to use that rule in a guidance. We have recently run into some obstacles that we'd just like to highlight. We never, and one of those, it's not an obstacle. Yes, it is an obstacle. It's an obstacle in that our ability to advocate for students at the highest level, whether that's at the unicameral or in front of this group, is to make sure that we have a voice or a good voice at the table when the Nebraska Department of Education meets to work on their big initiatives, especially the AQuest initiative that is part of their work. We think that the directorship of a high ability learner at the Nebraska Department of Education is vital in that effort. We think the AQuest is right on target, especially when you look at the positive partnerships, relationships, and student successes, and the bullet that describes individualized and personalized learning plans. We're talking about students here that are generally two percentiles, or excuse me, two standard deviations to the right of the norm, that really are as unique as those students who are two standard deviations to the left of the norm. But the funding in that particular group is not the same as you would expect for those that are to the left as those that are to the right of that norm. So the idea of having a seat at the table at NDE to ensure that there is conversation at the highest level to advocate for those students within the AQuest framework and to provide for leadership at that level is really a key piece that we want to address and make sure that you feel a need for that as well. Without that position, there may be an opportunity not to have that as a significant position or a voice to be at that table. We have recently had examples as recently as October of this last year when a school district from ESU 10, Kearney area, made inquiry to the department. The reply from the department came back to that school district that there was no longer a high ability learner director and that those responsibilities and actions were going to try to be segued from the department to the ESUs and to the Nebraska Association for Gifted. It's our position that that's not our role to do that. It's the role of the department to ensure that there is that person in that position to ensure that there are services that are going out to the school district. I've been told by previous directors that it's very common for those directors to meet over 100 or 150 times during the year, especially smaller school districts, to address everything from identification to the concerns, affective needs of children that are working, that are in those school districts. So that is a really high priority for us to continue that conversation. It's a very positive conversation with the department to try to have that position filled at the department level. In my remaining 50 seconds, I'd like to also just to reference that there is a bill in the legislature that's sitting in the Education Committee, LB 103. The NAG board met with some of the writers of that bill, and we've voted as a board, 15 volunteer members, to support that. It sits in the Education Committee. We think it is a great first step to ensure that there's conversation at the local level, which would then allow it to perhaps move to the state level, which would then perhaps allow it to move to a discussion with the department and your backing that there could be an increase in funding. As you know, the funding was originally intended to be $5 million. It's now at roughly $2.2 million, and with the current cuts, it will obviously go down from that as well. We fully recognize the budget crunch that the state is in, so we're not asking anything past that. We understand the concerns of that, and we need to make sure that that is a possibility. I'll conclude by simply saying I'm going to leave some literature for you, because I didn't have enough time, obviously, to address these things, but what I'd like to leave for you is some questions and answers about Every Student Succeeds Act and how it impacts high ability learners. I'd like to leave for you a flyer in Spanish and in English, if you're interested, in a community program that we're going to sponsor February 23rd.
Thanks, John. Your time. We'll go ahead and take the material.
And I'm going to
share
leave
them
with you some other items with Denise. So, thank you very much for this opportunity.
We will now move into our sorry. I'd like to remind you that if you haven't signed in, please do so. I have 4 cards. We will go in order that I received the cards, and you will have 5 minutes to address the board. And the first one is Janelle Jack. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. I'm Janelle Jack. I am the High Ability Coordinator from ESU 11 from Holdridge, and I am here to speak to you as a member of the Nebraska Association for the Gifted, and just as me. We do things a little bit different in the rural area, as you're all aware of. As John mentioned, with the cuts that are there for the State Department, and this decision to maybe perhaps cut the High Ability Coordinator, they're going to put those duties onto the ESUs. I am an anomaly in lots of ways, but I am the only person in the state of Nebraska who has the title of Gifted Coordinator at the service unit level. We're very lucky at our service unit because our board supports what we do and supports everything we do for those gifted kids. But there isn't that type of person at the ESU 10s or the 17s or the other areas out there. Now, if something would happen to make that be a realization, that would be wonderful. The schools of ESU 11 have decided to pool their money that they get from High Ability to do things together, because unfortunately with the smaller schools, there might be 1 or 2 highly gifted students at each area instead of the concentration. And I hate to correct John because it's never a good thing to do, but the person that won the state Nebraska Association for the Gifted Scholarship was actually from Cambridge. Delightful young man who is currently at the University of Michigan. I'll mess this up, I bet, majoring in chemical engineering. And so we do have those students in the rural area, even though we don't maybe perhaps have such a high concentration. We've used our money to do several different things. One of those things is the Summer Honors Program, which is in its 40th year, and it is held every summer at Holdridge. The gracious residents of Holdridge, Nebraska host these kids for for 2 weeks, and we have a great schedule. Bring in instructors from Norway, several from Virginia, and all different places, and we are able to give these kids the kind of thing that they strive for, they need. It was really, really exciting as we started our meetings at the state level to see that AQuest had high ability learners in its writing. That's hasn't been there for a long time, and so it was great to see that wording in there. Another thing that we do is we bring all the students to ESU 11 for something we call future problem solving, because these are our future. This is our future. These kiddos are. And they come together and try to solve what's going to happen in the future. Our latest one that these particular students were working on was, are we going to be able to, how are we going to handle the cloning and the digital reproduction of everything, so that way our society will be still stable. And they did a great job of writing together, and we bring in a speaker. And the last thing, not the last thing, but one of the other things we've done is something called Battle of the Books. And it would be really hard to have just one battle at the smaller schools. So all 13 schools go together and read books and talk with authors and all sorts of fun things that we have for them to do. None of this would be possible without the cooperation of the rest of the state. For instance, Kristen Job, who's going to speak to you later, has been so gracious to invite me to participate in the different things that their district is able to offer because of its size. And with the money and the direction of the state director, we can get that stuff out to the rest of the state as well. We have more teachers coming from our area to the Nebraska Association for the Gifted Conference, which is really very exciting. And with that continued support of you and AQuest and all the things that are going on now, we're going to be able to give those kids in the rural schools what they need. They might be 1 or 2 in a small school, but they are our future. And we, in rural Nebraska, want to bring those kids back. We want to give them the opportunities that we can, but we also want to give them a reason to stay where they're at, because we need them. We need them for our future. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you
Thank you.
for sharing. Our next speaker, who is asked to address the board, is Mr. Burke. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Henry Burke. I would like to discuss Nebraska Science Standards and the Next Generation Science Standards, known as NGSS. Will the existing 2010 Nebraska Science Standards serve as a good basis for the new Nebraska Science Standards? Will the NGSS form a solid foundation for the Nebraska Science Standards? I will answer these questions. In January 2012, Fordham released a comprehensive appraisal of the science standards of all states. In this study, 6 states earned A's and 6 states got B's. Fordham gave Nebraska a resounding failing grade of F with a rank of 44. The following are direct quotations from the Fordham State Profile Report for Nebraska. The Nebraska Science Standards are inadequate in nearly every way. Nebraska does not provide grade-specific standards. Instead, standards are provided for 4 strands of grades: K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and 9, 12. Great chunks of critical content are missing. The scientific inquiry and methodology standards are essentially useless. Taken as a whole, Nebraska's science standards do not articulate nearly enough of what students need to know and be able to do. Can you see why Fordham gave the Nebraska Science Standards a failing grade of F? In June 2013, Fordham issued a report that compared all of the states' science standards to the Next Generation Science Standards, known as NGSS. The state rankings are the same as for their 2012 report, with Nebraska holding fast to its rank of 44. How did Fordham rate the Next Generation Science Standards? They gave NGSS a grade of C. Next Generation fell between the states of Washington and Delaware, ranks 20 to 21. That means 20 states have better science standards than NGSS. Fordham found many shortcomings with Next Generation. For one thing, NGSS failed to include essential math content that is critical to science learning. The Fordham report found that the content of NGSS fails to ensure that all students will be equipped to enter STEM disciplines. By omitting essential content, Next Generation does not prepare students to meet the college admission requirements. Fordham understands the importance of knowledge-based learning. Good science consists of practices as well as knowledge. School children acquire knowledge in order to put it into practice. This is something that education pioneers like E.D. Hirsch and cognitive scientists like Daniel Willingham have repeatedly and convincingly argued. There is a consensus in cognitive psychology, Hirsch explains, that it takes knowledge to gain knowledge. So the more knowledge students accumulate, the smarter they become. Unfortunately, the Next Generation's authors believe practices are more important than content, games more important than knowledge. I have often stressed why we must build standards on a solid foundation. Several options are available for the foundation of the new Nebraska Science Standards. One obvious option is the 2010 Nebraska Science Standards. With Fordham giving the Nebraska Science Standards a grade of F, does that sound like a good foundation? Another option is the Next Generation Science Standards. Should Nebraska base its standards on NGSS? As mentioned earlier, Fordham gave Next Generation a score of C and placed 20 states above NGSS. Fordham listed many weaknesses for Next Generation. For example, Fordham questioned the college readiness of Next Generation and found it lacking in knowledge-based standards. Another option would be to use the science standards from other states. The 3 possibilities include the standards from South Carolina, Virginia, and Indiana. All 3 states earned an A- grade from Fordham, and the 3 states are non-Common Core states. Another possibility is Texas, with its strong Type 1 standards. The NDE and State Board must get it right this time and adopt strong Type 1 standards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. The next one that has asked for appearance is Jay Sears. Jay? Morning, Jay.
Morning.
You will have 5 minutes.
Good morning, I'm Jay Sears, and I work for the Nebraska State Education Association, and I just wanted to draw the board's attention to item 7.2A, Rule 24, my favorite rule. I serve, along with about 52 others, on an advisory body to you, the Nebraska Council on Teacher Education. 14 of our educator members of NSEA also serve on that body, and I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about one of the endorsements that is up for review for you, and that's in the proposed Rule 24 revisions, and that's the counselor, school counselor endorsement. Having had one of those for a number of years, it's kind of one of those things that I look at and say, well, we've really changed the curriculum for school counselors. I couldn't get that endorsement anymore because I'd have to go back and get the skills and knowledge that we're asking counselors to get to. One of the things that I can assure you is that counseling endorsement has been well vetted. We spent, well, probably a year or two meeting, talking about how we could change that and how we could get more educators into the counseling endorsement, because as we know, the use of counselors is very much needed in our school districts, in our school buildings, with the mental health issues that seem to be coming to our schools. And the job of the school counselor has kind of changed, and we still aren't preparing school counselors to be school psychologists or school social workers or the other types of supports that we need in schools. But I think what the Nebraska Council on Teacher Ed in their recommendation to you about Rule 24 and that endorsement is it should be able to allow some more people from the field that haven't necessarily gone through school counseling, but then pick up the knowledge about what it's like to work with educators in a classroom setting. We've moved from the early 70s where the school counselor did the scheduling and getting kids into college to actually doing more group counseling with kids, working on individual counseling and things like that. And so we welcome the fact that there are practitioners that come from the HHS side of counseling. They've got a background in clinical counseling, and so to give them an endorsement that they've earned through that side of the process, and then pick up some more knowledge about what it's like to work with schools, because as you all know, that's your business right now, is you work with school districts, and there's a uniqueness to it that's different than in a clinical setting. So what we try to do as a body that represents you and recommends to you is come up with a way that we can prepare people that come into schools that can be beneficial for the students and the teachers. So I recommend highly that you adopt that revision, and thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you, Jay. Our next speaker will be Rachel Pinkerton. Good morning, Mrs. Pinkerton.
Good morning. Okay. First, I want to give you the benefit of some research of mine that hasn't been enjoyable on the comprehensive sexuality education as it's being approached in Omaha Public Schools. And I'll just flag this for your attention. There's no shortage of sources for you.
But definitions are important. There is mention of abstinence in the CSE, and after spending many, many hours going through these, the standards and the materials that have been vetted by CSE, I'm troubled to tell you the definition of abstinence that this presents in our classrooms and to our children is not what you might imagine. Abstinence isn't defined, and nor is there really any room for a lifestyle where someone would choose not to seek sexual pleasure or arousal or satisfaction at all. That's just not even on the table. That's not in the discussion. Abstinence is not having vaginal, oral, or anal intercourse. And yes, we do have to be specific about that with our middle schoolers. So if you actually think that abstinence is not expressing yourself sexually, and that might actually be the safest, which obviously it's proven to be medically and socially and spiritually, you might want to really take a hard look at CSE. Next matter, Mike Groney's bill about backing up teachers if they're in a position that they need to physically restrain a child. You know, it's distressing to realize that that is such an issue and it's needed, but I understand that the NSEA is supporting that bill, and I appreciate that. And the reality, again, after thousands and thousands of hours of researching what's going on in our schools across the country, there's a lot of outsourcing of our discipline, and we have 5-year-olds being handcuffed by the police because we haven't, because there's a degree of disorder in our classrooms, for one thing, and we haven't given our teachers the tools and backed them up. So I applaud the NSEA for supporting that. And on a brighter note, I think you're familiar with our friends in Elk Creek schools, and I received, just as on my way here today, I received an email from Audrey Worthing, Sydney Hubbard, and Anna Hoffman. Thank you very much for addressing the issue of civics education in Nebraska. This is an issue that our group is interested in. We're hopeful that Nebraska Social Studies Summit will be successful, and that the civics initiative will be something all students in Nebraska will benefit from. We will continue to join you in providing a voice for civics, and have attached a link below for an interview that WOW-TV in Omaha had with our school. With this being Black History Month, we wanted to leave you with the words of George Washington Carver, who said, "Education is the key to unlock the golden door of freedom." Thank you again for your support for civics. Sincerely, Audrey Worthing, Sydney Hubbard, Anna Hoffman, Elm Creek Schools. And she has, this is on Audrey's email, and she has provided me with a link. Did any of you, you may have seen the news coverage that was given to the to these girls and what they've done with civics, and she's provided me a link, and if I have your email, I will share that with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. Pinkerton.
Thanks.
Okay, Kristen Job.
Good morning. My name is Kristen Job. I am here as a representative from NAG. I am a board member and also as a teacher in the Westside Community Schools. I would love to say that I'm going to be that bright, smiling face, but I spent the day yesterday taking middle schoolers to Topeka, Kansas, driving down and back. As awesome as that experience was, and it was truly spectacular, I'm a little tired, and I'm not sure I can hear very well as the game on the way home progressively got louder and louder and louder. Part of the glory of my job is that I get to hang out with amazingly gifted students, and part of my job is to do social emotional support. And that's why I spend days, many days, in vehicles, locked, trapped with middle schoolers who may not always smell the best, but need that time with like-minded peers. So my group yesterday, we visited the Brown versus Board of Education National Historic Site, which is a spectacular place, and even though it's not in Nebraska, I would definitely be making that trip again. And the kids had a great time because on the way there, they spoke about what they were going to learn on the way home. They were talking about everything that they did learn, and that time together with like-minded peers in that social emotional setting is really good for them. I, again, am here to come and urge you to support recreating that position of the HAL director. And I say recreating because we all understand the need for revision and change, and we all welcome revision and change. And we as a group and teachers would like to work with that person to help revise and change that. I know there's been a lot of work at the State Department in the background trying to make this position happen, and there has been a lot of work, and we recognize that as a group. And as a middle school teacher, my job is all about compromise. I have to figure out ways to compromise with 7th graders and 8th graders, and especially seniors in high school as well. But I would suggest maybe a compromise for creating this position. Since we've been moved out of lottery funding, we've gone into the general fund, and we all know budgets are ridiculously tight. Even in my district, there's talk that, you know, positions could be changed, could be cut, could be eliminated, because we're all feeling that crunch. But maybe consider a compromise of working that position, some monies from the general fund and maybe some from the grant that goes out to schools. It's between a rock and a hard place, and we all understand that, but we feel that compromise is essential in supporting this position. I would also like to invite every single one of you to our conference, February 23rd and 24th in Omaha. Lots of you have gone before, but it is truly an amazing conference. And the 15-member board, we work collectively all over the state to get some of the most incredible minds to be able to present at this conference. And I think we would like more than anything a chance to prove why we feel this position is necessary. And I think you would get a very eye-opening, you know, firsthand experience if you would attend that conference. So please consider attending. Please consider coming out to any of our schools at any time to see what we do. And if you would ever like to ride with me on an adventure with, you know, 6 or 7 middle schoolers, I would welcome the company anytime. But that is all I really have to say. I would just encourage continued support for considering LB 103. And if there are any questions, concerns, you want to know what we talk about in the car, I would be happy to divulge any of that information today.
Thank you very much, and I would decline going with you. I went with 7th graders when I was teaching, and I know what you're talking
You
about.
don't know what you're missing.
Oh, yes, I do. Thank you so much. Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to come before the board? Okay, that will close our public comment period, and we will take a 10-minute break. Good morning. We are now back in session, and we are to number 5 for our hearings. And our first hearing is NDE case number 1618, the Commissioner versus Kimberly Holden.
Madam President, I'd
Oh,
like.
no, wait. Not yet. I have more to read.
Okay.
The State Board of Education is prepared to consider the disposition of case 16-18, Commissioner versus Kimberly Holden. The board has been provided with the record of the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission proceedings containing the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommendations of the commission. All of the pleadings, exhibits, and a written transcript of the PPC hearing are marked by the State Board as Exhibit 1. The notice of the disposition hearing and the certified return receipts are marked as Exhibit 2. If there is no objection, these will be received. We will hear from our first we will first hear from a representative of the PPC, then the petitioner, and finally a representative of the respondent. Each representative will be given 10 minutes to present his or her statements. The board will not receive any additional evidence or testimony beyond that contained in Exhibits 1 and 2. Will the representative of the Professional Practices Commission please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Kelly Mothersbaugh, and I'm here representing the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission on the matter of Matthew L. Bloomstead versus Kimberly Holden. The commission found that the respondent was employed as a teacher by the Grand Island Public Schools beginning with the 2013-2014 school year until her resignation was accepted by the Grand Island School Board on December 10th, 2015. On October 29th, 2015, the respondent was found unresponsive, lying face down on the floor of her classroom, was incoherent, and the odor of an alcoholic beverage was present about her person. On November 3rd, 2015, a school administrator found a glass jar on the respondent's desk in her classroom, which contained a clear liquid that had the odor of an alcoholic beverage, then observed the respondent teaching while under the influence of an alcoholic beverage, and the respondent admitted to bringing alcohol to school and drinking it during the school day. The commission deliberated on the facts before it and recommends to the State Board of Education that the respondent's certificate be revoked for a period of 3 years.
Any questions from the board? Okay. Thank you. Will the petitioner please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself?
For the record, Brian Halstead, 301 Centennial Mall South, 6th floor, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68509, on behalf of the Commissioner of Education. We are here this morning in support of the Professional Practices Commission recommendation, and we'd urge you to adopt their recommendation revoking your certificate for 3 years. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have about the case.
Seeing none, thank you. Will the respondent please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself? The respondent is not in the room, so we will move on. And this proceeding is now closed. The board will make a determination in this matter at a later time. We move now to the State Board of Education is prepared to consider the disposition of case number 16-19, the Commissioner versus Bradley Nord. The board has been provided with the record of the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission proceedings containing the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommendation of the commission. All of the pleadings, exhibits, and a written transcript of the PPC hearing are marked by the State Board as Exhibit 1. The notice of disposition hearing and the certified return receipts are marked as Exhibit 2. If there is no objection, these will be received. We will now first hear from a representative of the PPC, then the petitioner, and finally a representative of the respondent. Each representative will be given 10 minutes to present his or her statements. The board will not receive any additional evidence or testimony beyond what is contained in Exhibits 1 and 2. Will the representative of the Professional Practices Commission please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself?
Again, for the record, I am Kelly Mothersbaugh, and I'm here representing the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission on the matter of Matthew L. Bloomstead versus Bradley Nord. The commission found that the respondent was employed as a teacher by the Gretna Public Schools beginning with the 2015-2016 school year until his resignation was accepted by the Gretna School Board on December 22nd, 2015. The respondent admitted to Gretna school officials in December 2015 that while he was employed as a teacher by the Bellevue Public Schools, that he engaged in a personal relationship that was sexual in nature with a female student whose date of birth was 7/17/95, beginning in the fall of 2011 through the spring of 2013. The commission deliberated on the facts before it and recommends to the State Board of Education that the respondent's certificate be permanently revoked.
Any questions? Thank you. Will the petitioner please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself?
For the record, Brian Halstead, 301 Centennial Mall, South, 6th floor, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68509. On behalf of the Commissioner of Education, we're here in full support of the PPC's recommendation and would urge you to permanently revoke Mr. Nord's certificate. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have about the case.
Thank you. Will the respondent please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself? Seeing no one, the proceedings are now closed. The board will make a determination in this matter at a later time. We will move on to the next one. The State Board of Education is prepared to consider the disposition of case 16-20, the Commissioner versus Brian Robeson. The board has been provided with the record of the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission proceedings containing the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommendation of the commission. All of the pleadings, exhibits, and a written transcript of the PPC hearing are marked by the State Board as Exhibit 1. The notice of disposition hearing and the certified return receipts are marked as Exhibit 2. If there is no objection, these will be received. We will now first hear from a representative of the NPPC, then the petitioner, and finally a representative of the respondent. Each representative will be given 10 minutes to present his or her statements. The board will not receive any additional evidence or testimony beyond that contained in Exhibits 1 and 2. Will the representative of the Professional Practices Commission please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself?
Again, for the record, I am Kelly Mothersbaugh, and I'm here representing the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission on the matter of Matthew L. Bloomstead versus Brian Robeson. The respondent was employed as a teacher by the Omaha Public Schools until his contract was canceled by the Omaha School Board on January 20th, 2016, following his arrest on December 29th, 2015. On September 22nd, 2016, pursuant to a plea agreement, the respondent was found guilty of first-degree sexual assault statutory rape for having a sexual relationship with a female former student that started when the student was 12 years old. On October 22nd, 2016, the respondent was sentenced to 40 years of incarceration. The commission deliberated on the facts before it and recommends to the State Board of Education that the respondent's certificate be permanently revoked.
Any questions? Thank you. Will the petitioner please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself?
For the record, Brian Halstead, 301 Centennial Mall, South, 6th floor, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68509. On behalf of the Commissioner of Education, we are here to urge you to permanently revoke the respondent's certificate. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have about the case.
Seeing none, will the thank you, Brian. Will the respondent please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself? The respondent is not here. The proceeding is now closed, and the board will make a determination in this matter at a later date. Number 4, the State Board of Education is prepared to consider the disposition of case 16-21, Commissioner versus Anthony Ray. The board has been provided with the record of the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission proceedings containing the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommendation of the commission. All of the pleadings, exhibits, and a written transcript of the NPPC hearing are marked by the State Board as Exhibit 1. The notice of the disposition hearing and the certified return receipts are marked as Exhibit 2. If there is no objection, these will be received. We will first hear from a representative of the NPPC, then the petitioner, and finally a representative of the respondent. Each representative will be given 10 minutes to present his or her statements. The board will not receive any additional evidence or testimony beyond that contained in Exhibits 1 and 2. Will the representative of the Professional Practices Commission please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself?
Again, for the record, I am Kelly Mothersbaugh, and I'm here representing the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission on the matter of Matthew L. Bloomstead versus Anthony Rahi. The respondent was employed as a teacher and a coach by the Loop City Public Schools until his resignation was accepted by the Loop City School Board on October 30th, 2015. On or between August 15th, 2013 and October 9th, 2015, the respondent on more than one occasion placed a camera in the locker room for females at the school, which captured female students in various stages of undress. On or about August 11th, 2016 and September 16th, 2016, the Sherman County District Court, the respondent, pursuant to a plea agreement, was found guilty of manufacturing visual depiction of sexually explicit conduct, possession, visual depiction of sexually explicit conduct, unlawful intrusion, all felonies, and unlawful intrusion, a Class 1 misdemeanor. And on November 18th, 2016, was sentenced to 7 to 15 years of incarceration and required to register as a sex offender. The commission deliberated on the facts before it and recommends to the State Board of Education that the respondent's certificate be permanently revoked.
Are there any questions? Okay. Will the petitioner please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself?
For the record, Brian Halstead, 301 Centennial Mall South, 6th floor, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68509. On behalf of the Commissioner of Education, we are here in full support of the Commission's recommendation and would urge you to permanently revoke the respondent's certificate. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have about the case.
Thank you. Will the respondent please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself? Seeing no one, the proceeding is now closed. The board will make a determination in this matter at a later date. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Yes, ma'am. I move that the State Board go into executive session to deliberate and receive advice from legal counsel on contested cases.
Second.
Okay. Denise, will you please call the roll?
Patricia Tim,
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols,
Yes.
Patrick McPherson,
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran,
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Lisa Fricky.
Yes.
Patsy Ko-Johns.
Yes.
8 yes.
Thank you. The board will now go into executive session for the purpose of receiving advice from legal counsel on contested cases for the protection of the public interest.
Second. Oh,
No, you have to make a motion.
never mind.
We'll get the hang of it, it's okay.
Sounded good. Excuse me. I move that the state board come out of executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Denise?
Patricia Tim,
Yes.
Rachel Wise. Yes. Maureen Nichols,
Yes.
Patrick McPherson,
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran,
Yes.
John Witzel,
Yes.
Lisa Fricky,
Yes.
Patsy Co-Johns.
Yes.
8 yes.
Thank you. We are now back in regular session. And we will move to action item 7, the first one being consider the PPC's recommendation decision in NDE case number 16-18, Commissioner versus Kimberly Holden. Do I have a motion? Molly?
I move in Commissioner versus Kimberly Holden, NDE case number 16-18, that this board adopt the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the recommendation of the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission, revoking respondent's teaching certificate for a period of 3 years, and to adopt the final order proposed by legal counsel.
Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Denise, please call the roll.
Patsy Co-Johns,
Yes.
Lisa Fricky,
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson,
Yes.
Maureen Nichols,
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
8 yes.
We will next consider the PPC's recommended decision in NDE case number 16-19, the Commissioner versus Bradley Nord.
Madam President, I move in Commissioner versus Bradley Nord NDE case 16-19 that this board adopt the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the recommendation of the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission permanently revoking respondent's teaching certificate and to adopt the final order proposed by legal counsel.
Second.
Second.
Rachel? Denise, please call the roll.
Molly O'Halloran,
Yes.
Patrick McPherson,
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Patricia Tim,
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Lisa Fricky,
Yes.
Patsy Co-Johns.
Yes.
8 yes.
Thank you. We will next consider the PPC's recommended decision in NDE case number 16-20, the Commissioner versus Brian Robeson.
I move in Commission versus Brian Robeson, NDE case number 16-20, that this board adopt the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the recommendation of the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission permanently revoking respondent's teaching certificate and to adopt the final order proposed by legal counsel.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll, Denise.
Maureen Nichols,
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran,
Yes.
Lisa Fricky,
Yes.
Patsy Co-John,
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
8 yes.
We will move now to consider the PPC's recommended decision in NDE case number 16-21, Commissioner versus Anthony Rahe.
Madam President, I move in Commissioner versus Anthony Rahe, NDE case number 16-21, that this board adopt the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the recommendation of the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission permanently revoking respondent's teaching certificate and to adopt the final order proposed by legal counsel.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll, Denise.
John Witzel,
Yes.
Lisa Fricky,
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran,
Yes.
Patsy Co-Johns,
Yes.
Maureen Nichols,
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
8 yes.
We will, thank you, Leslie, for being here. We will let you get back to work. Our next item is the Teaching and Learning Domain Committee. Maureen, do you have?
I do.
approve revisions. I'm sorry. Our committee asked the board to approve revisions to 92 NAC 24 regulations for certificate endorsements.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Denise, please call the roll.
Patsy Ko-Johns,
Yes.
Patricia Tim,
Yes.
Lisa Fricky,
Yes.
Rachel Wise,
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran,
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
8 yes.
Thank you. The next item is under student success and access. Molly?
Yes, I would entertain a motion on 7.3A. Adopt proposed revisions to Rule 1992 NAC 19 regulations regarding school enrollment.
Second?
Any questions or discussion? Denise?
Patrick McPherson,
Yes.
John Witzel,
Yes.
Lisa Fricky,
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran,
Yes.
Patsy Ko-Johns,
Yes.
Maureen Nichols,
Yes.
Patricia Tim,
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
8 yes.
Okay, Molly, did you? Okay.
And accessed domain committee is 7.3B. I would entertain a motion. This is to approve a contract with Educational Service Unit, ESU 10, to provide an instructional coach facilitator for Loop County schools.
So moved.
Second? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or discussion?
Yes, Madam Chairman. I had some questions about this that I thought they were well answered. It looked on the surface that this might be a little bit more money than I would have expected, but this was for actually a year and a half and involved some significant travel and other expenses, so I think it was appropriate in the end. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay, Denise?
Patsy Ko-Johns,
Yes.
Lisa Fricky,
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
8 yes.
Item 5A. Rachel?
All right, I have a series of motions I'm going to be making on behalf of the Legislative Committee. The first motion, and these first motions are to support several pieces of legislation. So I move to support LB 227, which is create the Brain Injury Council and Brain Injury Trust Fund.
Second.
Is there a second? Okay.
Molly.
Does anyone have any discussion or questions? Okay, your votes, please.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
No.
Use the nobody much. Patricia Tim.
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Lisa Fricky.
Yes.
Patsy Ko-Johns.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no.
Moving on, I make a motion to support LB 357, which is to increase original certificate of title fees for vehicles transferred to Nebraska from another state and provide for voluntary contributions to brain injury programs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a little technical difficulty. Is there any discussion and questions?
Somehow those, you just gotta pick 3 of them.
Rachel made the motion and the second was Molly.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Lisa Fricky,
Yes.
Patsy Ko-Johns,
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran,
Yes.
Patrick McPherson,
Yes.
Maureen Nichols,
Yes.
Rachel Wise,
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
8 yes.
Next, I would like to move on to LB 347 and move to support LB 347, which is the transportation, through the Transportation Telecommunications Committee, and that is changing provisions relating to bus permits and qualifications.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Denise?
Molly O'Halloran,
Yes.
Maureen Nichols,
Yes.
John Witzel,
Yes.
Patrick McPherson,
Yes.
Lisa Fricky,
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Patsy Ko-Johns,
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
8 yes.
Moving on, there were several bills that the committee discussed and had opposition towards, so I'd like to go through those bills. The first, I move to oppose LB 299, which is adopt the Occupational Board Reform Act and change procedures for rules and regulations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Denise?
Patricia Tim,
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols,
Yes.
Patrick McPherson,
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Lisa Fricky,
Yes.
Patsy Ko-Johns.
Yes.
8 yes.
Next, I'll move on to LB 608 and make a motion to oppose LB 608, which is adopt the Parental Choice Scholarship Program.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Your votes, please.
Rachel Wise,
Yes.
Maureen Nichols,
Yes.
Patrick McPherson,
No.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Lisa Fricky,
Yes.
Patsy Ko-Johns,
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no.
Moving on, I move that we oppose LB 630, which is adopt the Independent Public Schools Act.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, your votes, please.
Patsy Ko-Johns,
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Lisa Fricky,
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols,
Yes.
Patrick McPherson,
No.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no.
Moving on, I move to oppose LB 651, which is adopt the Nebraska Reading Improvement Act.
Second.
Any discussion? Your votes, please.
John Witzel,
Yes.
Lisa Fricky,
Yes.
Patsy Ko-Johns,
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson,
Yes.
Maureen Nichols,
Yes.
Patricia Tim,
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
8 yes.
I now would like to move to oppose LB 662, which is establish a grading system for schools and school districts.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Pat?
This one is I think, difficult for a lot of us because it involves AQuest and involves ESSA, involves a number of issues. While I'm sympathetic for Senator Linehan's introduction of this and her belief that an A through F grading system is appropriate, it seems to me that we've invested a lot of time and money in AQuest and the new system, and it would probably, and it's part of our strategic plan for the next 10 years. So I'll probably abstain on this one, but I just I feel that that there's some real concerns here that need to be addressed before we do this. In effect, we have an A through F grading system now if you look at our priority schools, that our 3 priority schools, because they're kind of, whether we want to say it or not, they're kind of our Fs. And our needs improvement schools are Ds. And if we need to do anything, I think we really need to make some very strong commitment to dealing with the needs improvement schools, because that's where our greatest opportunities are to improve education in Nebraska. So while I'm a little sympathetic toward the reasoning behind this, I'm going to vote to abstain for those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
We started 3 years ago with AQuest, if you will, and when we started AQuest, we also had a lot of, if you will, community engagement and stakeholder, if you will, inputs in regards to how we were going to, if you will, proceed forward with our system of performance, and it's worked quite well. As a matter of fact, we are literally ahead of the game in a lot of ways in regards to the current, if you will, regulations like the ESSA, and also our, if you will, statutes from the legislature. We followed the letter to the T in regards to the direction we went. So in good faith, we literally are following the intent of this statute. But we just have if you will, maybe a little definition of what a excellent is or what a is and so forth. But it literally, it all means the same.
Rachel?
And I do think that we had great conversation at the committee level and at the work session yesterday. I think the one thing that resonates that's important for us to keep in the forefront is if we have a current statutory limitation in our accountability system at this point, the statutory limitation is the identification of just 3 priority schools. I think we know from our analysis and from our discussions over the past 2 years and the evolution to the accountability system we have, that there are more than 3 schools that should be designated priority schools that would benefit from the intentional supports and interventions that are being provided currently to our 3 priority schools. So if anything, a need for statutory change might be around that area to improve our accountability system, AQuest.
Anything else, John?
One other point. The plans we're making right now for Every Student Succeeds Act, the plan that we're making right now, what I've read in this act is literally resembles almost to the T, the AQuest system that we're using now in regards to the requirements, the, if you will, reporting and so forth. But probably one of the most important things that we can read into it is evidence-based analysis. That's probably one of the key, if you will, denominators that we see with ESSA and our AQuest.
Anyone else? Lisa?
John, for the audience, you want to just say what the acronym is for in one sentence about that?
Evidence-based analysis.
Yeah. I mean, I know, but I just thought the audience.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Whenever we're talking to our stakeholders and so forth, what we'd like to do is get information on what they perceive to be important in regards to a lot of the inputs that we get in schools. And with that, evidence-based is, I'll give you an example. A superintendent or a principal is going to take a, if you will, almost a grading sheet, and they're going to physically take this sheet and do a self-analysis, a self-inspection on themselves and on their school using the information as they know it. And that is considered evidence-based analysis. It's tip of the spear, if you will, an evaluation done by the individuals responsible for it. And in most cases, we're finding that a lot of the superintendents and principals are a lot tougher on themselves in regards to grading than one might think. They are very, very, if you will, have a lot of integrity and know what they're looking for, and very, very honest in regards to their needs and their wants and their status in regards to the school system.
Rich?
I think to add to that, what's an important consideration with the evidence-based analysis is there is an intersection with Rule 10. And so
Yes.
there's a process of validation. So there is one
You're
step
exactly
about
right.
that self-analysis, but we also have in essence, a safeguard of validation through the process of accreditation that we use with Rule 10. So again, I think the current system we have of accountability that links and ties with our system of accreditation is beneficial for the improvement of all schools in Nebraska.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Denise?
Patrick McPherson,
Abstain.
Patricia Tim,
Yes.
Patsy Ko-Johns,
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Lisa Fricke,
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols,
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 abstain.
Okay.
The final report I have is just, we did make recommendations to remain neutral, but we do not need to necessarily take a vote on those positions that we, or those bills that we continue to remain neutral on at this time. Those bills that we contain, that we look at remaining neutral, certainly will continue to look at and monitor and may bring back to the legislative committee to discuss again going forward. And we have, and you have in front of you, 4 bills, LB 655, LB 153, LB 650, LB 595, that at this point the legislative committee proposes that we remain neutral on.
Okay. Patrick, did you have?
I would like, maybe I misunderstood, but I thought I had a contrary vote on LB 595, and I'd like to take that as a separate vote if we may.
We're actually not going to vote on any of these that we're remaining neutral on. So what we discussed is that we're not necessarily taking a motion to take a formal position to remain neutral at this time on these bills. I'll turn it back to Chair.
Madam Chairman, would it be, I don't think it'd be inappropriate for me, I don't know whether I'll get a second, but I would like to vote on LB 595.
What is your motion?
I would like to vote to support LB 595.
Do I hear a second? Well, it looks like we'll keep it neutral,
Thank you.
but I appreciate that. And,
Let's move
so-
forward. Let's go.
okay. Molly?
Well, I move to oppose LB 595.
I second that motion.
And since it's my motion, may I speak to it first?
Yes.
I have some additional information that since I've learned since yesterday. I first want to say is this is an important discussion. I admire Senator Groney for bringing this to our attention. Oh my gosh, schools should be safe for teachers as well as students. So I in no way want to act like this is inconsequential. However, I am concerned for several reasons I didn't bring up. The first one is it might be a redundant legislation. There are laws that already exist in Nebraska protecting teachers, providing authority to use physical contact in certain situations. And I'm just going to refer to this Law 79-258. And specifically, there's a section that provides authority for school teachers and administrators to use physical contact short of corporal punishment to the degree necessary to preserve order and control in the school environment, and authorizes an acceptable level of incidental physical contact as is necessary for teachers to promote personal interaction with their students. And I'm just concerned that this bill as it stands is going to have unintended liability issues. Injuries could occur to both students and staff. And on a personal note, I'm part of this coordinated school health, and we had Building Healthy Futures come to North Platte. And sorry to talk about my little town, but Brandy Busher is in charge of our students that are at risk. And she said if she has to use physical violence to establish control, she's already lost the issue. And she said that in regard to this suggested bill, she said the real center and focus of the conversation needs to be proactive behavioral and mental health support. And I think it comes back to what we discussed earlier about more school counselors needed and to be expanded. And also, I think teachers need to earlier understand how to effectively intervene in these behavioral situations. And my last point is, if we really want kids to be college, career, and civic ready, they have to be able to develop some self-control. And I, as a former teacher and a mother of 5 kids, know that for that to be sustainable, it can't just be when I have the stick in front of them. It has to be something where they learn to modify their own behavior. And also, in coordination of this, I'm concerned about the teacher removing the student from the class from under specified condition and prohibiting the principal from returning the student without the teacher's consent. I think this could be a convenient way for at-risk students to be removed from the school for long-term consequences detrimental to Nebraska society.
Anyone else? Maureen?
I very much concur with Molly on this. After a lot of thinking and rereading the bill last evening, the conversation, as I indicated in our work session yesterday, this starts the conversation. But the conversation needs to be zeroed in on mental health, behavioral health, in service for our teachers and administrators. I see this as family, school, community partnership issue where communities need to come together and realize that there are issues in our schools. We need to work with our teachers, but our teachers and administrators need to be effectively trained on how to do this without corporal punishment entering in, because I do see this as several liability issues coming forward. And so I am going to be opposing this today.
Okay. Anyone else? Patrick, did you have anything?
I think you're going to be supporting Molly's motion. To oppose, yeah, okay.
Thank you,
All right,
Patrick.
I wanted to clarify that because I'm going to oppose this simply because, looking at what I've seen happen in the Omaha area, I think teachers need to have some kind of ability to respond in cases where they're threatened. And I think that it's very important that we not allow our teachers and their classes and their students to have their learning interfered with by individuals. I see this as more of an opportunity to say, teachers need to be able to protect themselves, and they need to be able to have order in their classrooms. And so the bill is not perfect, I admit, and Molly and others raised good points. But I'm still going to vote in favor of what I think is, supporting teachers. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Rachel?
And I'm not speaking really at this point in opposition or in support of the motion, but why the discussion at one point of this board being neutral on this particular bill goes back to us doing our homework as well and understanding what's our responsibility in this process as a board. What's our responsibility in understanding, is the current statute sufficient? Are they meeting the needs? Are there issues with the current statutes that have brought this bill forward? Are there things, because we have different policy partners who have taken different positions on this bill. So understanding why our policy partners have taken the different positions, I guess for me, for our board to do its due diligence, it's important for us to do that research, to think through that process, so that if we were taking a position and providing testimony around that position, we would be solid as to why we are supporting that particular position. I think for us to be neutral, it gives the Department of Education staff the opportunity to provide information without taking a position, but providing information to this very, very important conversation. So from my context, why there is value in being neutral at this time is to allow the Department of Education staff to continue its role as a resource to the Education Committee, and us as a board to do our due diligence and understanding, are there issues that we need to be a part of and making changes or recommendations towards this very, very important issue.
Anyone else? Lisa?
I don't think there's been anything said that I agree or disagree with. I, especially a new person on the board, I need more information. I know it's a problem, but I think, do we do it through statute? You know, work that way to modify what we already have, because some constraints are already there. Kind of like an amendment to that. And if we don't oppose or are in favor of something, can we vote neutral? I don't know what to do. The what?
You could abstain.
Okay, that would be why, because I don't disagree with anything. I just need more time and for the staff to get us more informed. In some places in this proposal, it's too ambiguous as to what's going to be done. And if people aren't trained in what they're gonna do, how effective or ineffective is that going to be? So I just need more information. I'm not saying anything against anybody. It's just part of the conversation that needs to be had for the safety of the students and the children in our schools. But now's, I don't think, the time to do that.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to have Molly reinstate the motion, and I want to remind you that if you vote for the motion, if you vote yes, you're voting to oppose this particular bill. If you vote no, essentially you are saying that you want the motion to remain neutral at this time, giving the legislative committee more chance to discuss and make recommendations at a later date. So does everybody understand that? Okay, your votes, please.
Do you want me to say that again?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry.
Since you
I
told
got
me
so
you wanted me
involved
to
in
say it again.
my explanation.
Okay, I move to oppose LB 595.
And the second was Maureen?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Second.
All right. Denise?
Patricia Tim,
No.
Rachel Wise,
No.
Maureen Nichols,
Yes.
Patrick McPherson,
I'm voting no because I oppose the bill. Thank you.
Molly O'Halloran,
Yes.
John Witzel,
Abstain?
Lisa Fricke,
Abstain.
Patsy Co-Johns.
No.
Madam Chairman, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm voting no because I support the bill. I misstated my opposition there.
Thank you. for
Please,
the-
please correct mine.
Your vote is still a no, right?
My
Yes.
vote was no because I support
Okay.
the bill.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
Do you need the call? We have 2 yes, 4 no, 2 abstain.
Okay. So the motion fails. And we will go back to discussion within the legislative committee.
That was all, because I just have the bills that we're not taking action on that were neutral. That just is that information. So we have gone through our action for the committee.
Well, I would like to thank the legislative committee. I think they have done an excellent job so far of all of the things that they have had to discuss, and it sounds like everything has been discussed very thoroughly. And making recommendations then to the rest of us, I think has been very, very helpful. So thank you to the committee.
The motion passes if a majority of those present and voting.
Okay.
And if the count is 4
Mhm.
to 2 to 2, is that what it was?
No, it was 2 no, 2 yes, 4 no, 2 abstain. The motion failed. So you gotta have enough yes votes.
Okay, you're right.
Okay, all right. So the motion has failed, and we will turn that back to the legislative committee for more discussion. Thank you. Now we will move on to the Budget and Finance Committee. John?
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate the efforts of everybody on the committee, and especially in these challenging times with the budget. But especially I'd like to thank, if you will, Bryce Wilson and Shane Ryan in regards to the enormous work that they've done this past year, especially with the challenges of our budget. And so thank you very much, Bryce and Shane. I'd like to have make a motion to award innovation grants to recommended applicants for the 2016-17 Innovation Grant Fund Program.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we will award innovation grants that have been recommended. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, your votes, please.
Patsy Co-Johns.
Yes.
Lisa Fricky.
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
8 yes.
Okay, we move on to item 8. Commissioner, have we had anything removed from the consent agenda for a separate vote? Okay, nothing has been removed from the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move we accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Denise?
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
Lisa Fricky.
Yes.
Patsy Co-Johns.
Yes.
8 yes.
Okay. The rest of the things on your agenda, there are some information items. Please, okay.
Yeah, we're not gonna do the video, so.
Yeah. So please take note of those. We have board reports, dates and discussion items, meeting participation. Is there a motion to approve the meeting participation? I believe we had one change of,
Yes, I'm going to
Yeah.
Nebraska City
Thank
as
you.
opposed to Kearney is my change. Looking
Okay.
forward to attending the Braille Challenge.
thank you for doing that.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the meeting participation. Denise?
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Lisa Fricky.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
Patsy Co-Johns.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
8 yes.
Okay. You have in your materials the monthly report on travel expenses. And you have some more information items there for your reading and enjoyment. Is there anything else that needs to come before the board? We will adjourn this meeting. Thank you for all of your hard work. Everybody put in a lot of time this time. A work session will be held on Thursday, March 2nd at 2 p.m. and a board meeting will be held on Friday, March 3rd at 9 a.m. in this room. Thank you.